Do you need a new tech setup? Do you want to save some money? Are you a student or just someone who needs new gear? You need to watch this video. Everything is more expensive these days. Filling up your car, paying for your rent, leaving the house and doing anything at all that involves going into public and paying for a service or food or drinks or whatever. Tech. That's really expensive. You know, the RAM crisis, the price of phones and laptops and everything, it's just overwhelming no matter who you are, unless you're a millionaire with loads and loads of disposable income. I'm not that, by the way. I firmly sit in the bracket of someone who thinks life is ridiculously expensive. However, I know that students in particular, anyone who's going back to college or going to college or university for the first time or back to school, you have a particular budget mindset. You know, you'll be doing everything you can to save money, which makes total sense. Equally, you may just be someone who, you may not be a student, you may be my age and you just want to buy some new stuff and not spend a fortune. The good news is that although things in tech are more expensive, they're better than they've ever been. You can't really buy a bad smartphone, for instance, and it's very hard to buy a bad pair of earbuds or headphones for your noise cancelling and listening duties. So what I thought I'd do in this video is put together a bunch of things which I think students in particular will need for the coming years ahead, but equally for people who, like I say, just need new gear, new tech. And I've put it into different categories: phones, laptops, tablets if you need one, audio, note-taking, etc, etc. And because I'm an Apple fanboy at heart, there will be an Apple version of everything that I talk about, but also there will be a non-Apple recommendation for most of them. Let's get into it. Before we crack on, this bit of the video is sponsored by Backmarket, and honestly, given the time of year, it's a pretty relevant one. If you're watching this as a student, a parent sorting a kid out for September, or a teacher who just needs a decent laptop that doesn't cost the earth, Backmarket really is worth a proper look. It's a marketplace for professionally refurbished devices. Laptops, tablets, speakers, the lot. And no, we're not talking a dodgy car boot sale refurbishment. Every device goes through up to a 100-point quality inspection, comes with a 1-year warranty, free shipping, and 30-day free returns. That's a proper safety net. But the prices is where Backmarket genuinely gets very interesting. You're looking at real savings compared to buying new, up to 50% less. And right now, if you're a student or teacher, you get another discount on top of that. The link is in the description. Go and see what your money actually gets you at Backmarket. Let's start with the smartphone because that is the most important device you own. If you're an Apple person and you need a new phone and you're on a budget, just get the iPhone 17e. It's a no-brainer. Okay, it's only got one camera, and no, it doesn't have ProMotion, but it's beautifully one-handed. It takes me back to the iPhone 13 mini in that respect. It looks fantastic. It's the most iPhone going. It just does the job, and it slots perfectly into the Apple ecosystem, which in my opinion is still the best ecosystem out there. It's very powerful. The battery's fantastic. It still takes fantastic photos with that one camera. Unless you need something more, just get this. However, if you're not an Apple person, get the Nothing Phone 4B. This is 300 quid. Nothing make about 11 million smartphones, so don't go onto their website and start browsing because you will get confused. Just get this. It has a better display than the iPhone 17e. It's got a better camera system, technically, because it has more lenses, although I think this takes better photos personally. But regardless, if you want the ultra wide and all that stuff, this gives you that. And look at it. It's really interesting. If you've never heard of Nothing, don't worry. They've been around for quite a while and they make fantastic phones. They know how to make budget phones. So it's Apple or Android, but these are the two phones I'd go for. Next up, you need a laptop, and if you watch this channel regularly, you know exactly where this is going. Just buy yourself the MacBook Neo. It's the best laptop I've ever used. I run my business on this, and the interesting thing, the telling thing, is that I don't have an alternative suggestion for you. If you do have one, if you have a Windows-based alternative for this, please get involved in the comments. We do need a bit of balance here, but I can't offer it because I love this so much, and I think it's the best value MacBook out there if you don't want to spend too much money. Yes, it has gone up in price recently, but it's still the cheapest MacBook you can buy, and it runs macOS, which is the best laptop, desktop operating system on the planet. No arguments. If you buy this, if you have to stretch the budget a little bit to afford it, you will not regret it. Tablets. Now, I think when most people think tablet, they think iPad, because the iPad is the best tablet out there, in my humble opinion. However, if you want the Android version of a tablet, I would go for the Oppo Pad 5, which is about 330 quid in the UK. Very, very cheap, and does the job perfectly. If you're an Apple person, I think it comes down to whether or not you can get away with your phone and your laptop, or if you need a tablet, an iPad, for something very specific. So if it's for note taking in class, in lectures and that sort of stuff, that makes sense. However, I think there's an alternative to that if you're on a budget, which I'll come on to later. If you are an iPad only person, I would get the entry-level iPad and the Magic Keyboard Folio, I think it's called, which is Apple's best version of the Magic Keyboard. Get that, get the Apple Pencil, you've got a fantastic setup there, and then you can save money on the laptop. If you're not an iPad only person, you do need a reason to get one of these. Obviously, you could go on to Back Market and get a cheaper version of one of the earlier iPads or the iPad Mini or something like that. That would be a very good buy, but really think whether or not you need one, because they're a niche product, I think, still. They're fantastic, but you need a reason to buy one if you're on a budget. If you have that reason, by the way, get involved in the comments again. I'd love to know what you do with your iPads. I find it fascinating. Audio, listening to stuff. If you are an Apple person, get the AirPods 4 with ANC. They are such good value for money. If they fit in your ears, that's the important thing. They don't fit in my ears. The left one always falls out, which is really annoying because they're so good. You will need to go for the AirPods Pro, which are more expensive. But if you can get these to fit in your ears, which should be the case, get them. If noise cancelling doesn't bother you, just get what they call the ear pods, the old-fashioned ones with the white cable. Loads of people are using those these days. They're about 20 quid, $20. They just work. They do the job. Go for them. Save yourself some money. If you're not an Apple person, but you still want a pair of earbuds that do noise cancelling and sound fantastic and look fantastic, here they are again. Go for the Nothing Ear 3A. They are unbelievably good, and they're about 100 quid, I think, $100. Not very much money at all. And look at them, he says, trying to figure out which side does it open. The case is a bit fiddly, to be fair, but look, they are such fantastic looking and sounding earbuds. Really, really good value for money. If you want over ears, Nothing are getting a lot of ear time. Yeah, that kind of works. They're getting a lot of airtime in this video for good reason, because they make very good budget products. These are the Nothing Headphone A. They are an acquired taste, if I put them on my head. Depends whether or not you like this kind of translucent design, but they sound good. The noise cancelling is fantastic. They are not very expensive at all. Get them. Note taking. I mentioned earlier during the iPad section that you could save yourself some money, and what I meant by that was that unless you do use the Apple Pencil and your iPad to take notes, and you do that because you are an iPad only person, there's nothing wrong with just getting a physical notebook and using a pen the old-fashioned way. I've gone back to this. I've stopped taking notes digitally, and I've started taking notes on this. This is a Moleskine Classic notebook. It's like a passport-sized notebook, and I've got squared lines in there, although squares, but you can have lined, you can have blank, obviously, as well. There's loads of different versions of these notebooks. I just went for the Moleskine one because it just sounded and looked nice. And also I have this leather cover which goes around it, and patina's lovely after a while. The combination of that was about 20 quid. Nothing at all. The pen that I'm using is not the best example because I got this at Apple Park and it's relatively expensive. But again, it doesn't matter. It's the Apple pen, by the way. But you can just get any pen. Doesn't matter. The point being, for about 20 quid, $20, you can get a lovely note-taking setup that doesn't disturb you. It lets you take notes and really focus on what you're taking, and it makes a massive difference. Everything goes into your head and stays there, mainly. And it doesn't ring. It doesn't give you notifications. It's just a beautifully analog way of doing something, and I highly, highly recommend it. Portable power. This is very important for anyone, really, not just students. I think we have so many things to charge these days that it's worth spending a little bit more money and getting a fairly significant power bank. This, for instance, is the Ugreen Nexode. This is the 130 watt version, 20,000 milliamp hours, and it's got a face on it. You can't see it there, but it's got this little animation thing here. It's also completely empty, which is interesting. The point point being, I can charge my laptop from this, I can charge everything basically. It's got a built-in cable, which is very handy, but you can also run off another cable there if you want to. And because it's so chunky and powerful and has so much charge in here, it's invaluable. It gets me out of so many tight situations. And again, because I have so many things to charge, having a significant battery does make a big difference. Yes, you can spend less. These are relatively expensive, but it's a very good investment. Also, get yourself a very, very long, and I mean very, very long, I forget the exact length this one is. It's a few feet, but you get the point. Get a very, very long USB-C cable and thank me later, because you'll need this more than you think. You need something to put all this stuff into, I get that, and that's why I do need to recommend a backpack. The problem with this part of the video is that the backpack I use is it's the Peak Design Everyday something, and it's quite expensive. However, if you've saved some money today, if you bought yourself a notepad and the AirPods, whatever they're called, or you just haven't had to buy everything that I've talked about, then it is worth spending a bit of money on your backpack because they do so much for you. You have them on you all the time, and they need to be safe and comfortable and good for your back and all that sort of stuff. So although this is expensive, it's worth it, I think. It has brilliant storage as well. So it's got this kind of adjustable lid, so you can make this bit bigger, and you can get into it via the sides. So it's got compartments, individual compartments in here that you can change. It's all completely customizable. It's fantastic, but it is expensive. I think based on it being a bit pricey, I'd look at TomTok. I'll put a TomTok example of a very good backpack as well into the description, but there's so many different examples out there. If you want to spend less, which brings me to the conclusion of this video, which is that you don't have to buy any of this stuff. You certainly don't have to buy all of it, but there will be something, I think, that I've shown you today that will be very useful for you and which will help you build a tech setup that doesn't cost the earth. Equally, I may have missed things. In fact, I've definitely missed things. It always happens. If that's happened and you've got something in your head and you're thinking, why hasn't he talked about this product? Get involved in the comments. Remember, guys, all of this stuff is linked in the description. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, you know what to do.